governments lie, okay? All the time. They try to fool us, right? And it's crazy. You go to the store or you go to a movie and you just realize that, boy, the dollar just isn't going that far. I mean, why? People are wondering, why am I broke all the time, right? And the challenge is that the currency has been devalued constantly, right? Artificially keeping the interest rates low, printing money. This is nothing new, by the way. The big one started really in 08, 09, right? The new term, quantitative easing, right? You know, that was around $800 billion they pumped in the market. Well, guess what? I think what I was reading the other day, we're like approaching 3 trillion now. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's QE forever, right? So what you're alluding to is that what's happening is that as they print more and more, I mean, remember, the piece of paper, the dollar, right, had value only because it was backed by something. Right? What is it backed by now? So ever since everyone went off the gold standard, it really, what is it backed by? What, just that the government says that it's worth this, and hey, don't worry, we're going to back you up if you go somewhere, and so they give it that value. So it's the value of it is decreasing more and more, and the more money they print. I mean, we have seen nothing yet. All we can do is protect ourselves and protect our families, right? By being responsible, and I think understanding these basic concepts and then doing something about it and making sure that we get into some of these hard assets to preserve our wealth. And look, you've got to figure out a way to preserve wealth. You know, North Americans are a little bit unique where they don't think about, gold, or now they are with Warren Buffett and some of the big institutions starting to come into gold and silver. But traditionally, people don't really think about that much about gold out here that I find. But look at it around the world, right? Whether it's China or whether it's, look at India, for example, right? India has, from birth, it's ingrained in you, right? It's like you're taught that the value of you've got to preserve, you got to keep a little bit of gold. Even the poorest of the poorest person in India, they could be living in a little tent, okay, not have a home, but they'll own some gold and silver, even down to a little bit they might only have a couple of grams. Villages pool their money in order to make sure that they have some gold, okay? So and culturally and traditionally, when a young lady, marries, the family traditionally gives her some gold, some jewelry in the form of jewelry. Now, jewelry in India isn't, 10 karat or 14 karat. It's the real deal. It's the real thing, right? And the reason they do that is because they know that's how you make sure that you preserve something for a rainy day. So North Americans, I think, are starting to, get that. And look, it doesn't take it's not rocket science, right? It's not really that complicated when you sit down and think about it. Why you say, why gold and why now? You gotta preserve wealth. Why now? Because this is unprecedented. When in our lifetimes can we think of a time when governments were printing this money at this speed, okay, in this frequency? When can we think of a time at the same time around the world there were riots and civil unrest? And at the same time, when can you think of a perfect trifactor, okay? There's a world pandemic. 3 things happening at the same time. Yeah. This is the environment that gold loves. And that's why I believe that we are just getting started here. It's also because we're addicted, right, to this QE now, right? And what does an addict need, right? An addict always needs more and more to sustain that same level. And that's what's happening over here, right? The governments need to pump more and more back into the economy to prop it up, right? Because they're spineless, right? They can't tell the truth. Hey, it's bad, man. We got to fix it. No, it's easier for them to just keep printing, keep dishing out the money to everybody so that they can get reelected, right? That's the unfortunate thing, right? In this whole scheme of things. Where can it go? Look, a lot smarter people than me, all right, who have tremendous amount of research at their fingertips, are talking, certainly, like Bank of America just projected $3,000 gold next year, right? So I definitely see. I mean, I don't know if it'll ever go to 50,000 and some of these crazy numbers that some people talk about. Could it? Absolutely. But I definitely see gold in the 3,000 range next year, and I suspect in the next 2 to 3 years I would see it at around the $5,000 mark. And again, from all, because I just don't see the quantitative easing and the printing of money, they're relentless, right? I don't see them stopping that. And this COVID isn't going away anytime soon, right? So I think all those factors are going to push gold to incredible highs. And listen, a lot of players are getting involved, right? Warren Buffett, of course, just recently, right, for the first time ever, right? He's always been against gold. Always has said you don't like it. Well, suddenly here he's made a big investment, in a gold mining company for the first time, right? You've got the Ohio Police and Fire Pension Fund, right? Just recently announced they're going to allocate 5% of their portfolio to allocate that to gold for the first time ever. So many will, right? You always need that first sort of person to set the pace, right? To set the mark. And institutions, right? Institutions right now, we talked about silver earlier. I mean, the list just goes on and on, right? I mean, Barclays, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, right? It just goes on and on. All these players, for the first time, if you read the 13 Fs, the last quarterly filings, these are all institutions that for the first time have invested in silver. So all of these things are going to drive the gold market, the gold price, the silver price higher, because everyone's going to be talking about it, right? I definitely see this as one of the longer runs that we have, and again, it's because of all the factors that we've been talking about. I mean, it's an unprecedented time, right? I mean, for all these things to come together at the same time, and I just don't see how this is going to turn, right? Look. People, sometimes my colleagues, my friends, some of the people who are not necessarily in the industry will talk about, say, look, this seems a very complicated situation. They're not. It's a very basic, fundamental fact, right? Look at your household, right? If you have, X amount of income that you're making, right? But you're spending more money than you're making. Well, that's a pathway to be going broke, right? Then on top of that, just because you want to look good in front of your, I don't know, your friends or right? your kids or what have you, right? And you go and you borrow some from Bob, and then you borrow some from Kathy, and you borrow a little bit more from Joe. At some point, you got to pay them back. Right? So if you don't pay them back, right, what's going to happen? You're going to go broke. You're going to, everything's going to implode on you. It's going to look great while you have the money, which is not really yours. Governments are no different, right? I mean, do you know of any business that the government's in? How are they making any money, right? We're the business, right? They're getting it from us, right? All the time. And they keep jacking it up higher and higher, right? The taxes and everything else. So, it's just this, look, in my opinion, these are the times when wealth, generational wealth is created, right? Because you've got a trend, you've got momentum, you've got to have the ability to see the opportunity just before it's about to take off, right? So right now, that's where we are with the precious metals, right? Everyone's talking about it. Everyone can see, hey, the dollar is getting weaker and weaker. So the only way to do it is by some sort of hard assets. Could be real estate, could be gold, could be silver, but you got to be in some hard asset outside of the piece of paper. That's the bottom line, right? And the only reason junior miners are become good, and obviously, I think we're a great company, but there's others as well, right? That investors should really take a serious look at companies like ours and others is because the multiplier effect, right? Because you can only buy so much physical gold, right? But as the gold price goes up, as we talked about earlier, by 1 point, let's call it, typically, historically, junior miners go up by tenfold. Right? I mean, that's typically what's happened. Now we can't predict if it's going to happen again, but historically, that's what's happened, and there's no reason why it wouldn't happen again now, right? The key here is you got to be an investor, right? Not a trader, right? A trader, goes in and out, with the markets, right? Look, I invested in my own company, in Blue Lagoon Resources. I put $300,000 in at $1. Okay, so am I worried? Is that 60 cents or whatever it's at? Not at all, because I'm not looking at where we are today. I'm looking at where we're going to be in a year from now, in 18 months from now, in 2 years from now. That's how you do things, right? If you're in real estate, you buy a piece of land that's raw land, you subdivide it, you build value, right? You put a building on top of it, and suddenly that's how you increase the value. So same thing here, right? We have mine, we have known veins, we have a huge property, we're in a bull market of, in the precious metals. I mean, how much more perfect can it get, right? So as an investor, you have to have a slightly long-term mentality, right? I'm not talking about, necessarily 10 years, but certainly a year to 2 to 3 years, right? You've got to have that long-term mentality, and you can't worry about these little gyrations. They're gold and stocks, they go up and down. I mean, that's just normal, right? But look at the trend. You have to look at the chart. Where was it, and where is it going, right? So that's, in my opinion. Now, of course, I'm not a financial planner or anything, and everyone, obviously should get their, proper professional advice. But in terms of investing, you have to have certainly a medium to a long-term outlook, and not, day to day what's happening in the markets. I think the single greatest, thing that I've learned in my life, right, is always try to surround yourself with the brightest brains, right? I mean, put your ego aside, right? Look, first thing I admit to myself is I'm dumb at almost everything. Okay, I'm stupid, all right? I want, whatever industry I get into, I want to surround myself with people who are at the top of their professions, right? I just need to be good at one or two things, right? And that's what I'm good at. I'm good at execution, I'm good at focus, right? The rest of it, you either hire or you get advice from if they're your colleagues or your mentors. But I think that's one of the most important things. And people let their egos get in the way, right? I don't need to say that, listen, I'm the best guy or the smartest guy. I'm not. Okay, and I think once you recognize that and you surround yourself with people and you really listen, you got to be a sponge, right? You just soak the information, talk less, right? Listen more. I think that just the opportunity, look, to be living in North America, just to be thankful, we forget, you watch the news and you look at the countries around the world and what's happening. I mean, I think we are so blessed to be in this environment, and living in Canada or the United States. I think it's, despite all the issues, I know there's all sorts of issues and things are happening, but despite all that, right? You know what? And, Warren Buffett calls it the lucky sperm bank, right? I mean, why wasn't I born in, somewhere in, Turkey or Iran, or I don't, not to say that those are bad countries, by any means. I mean, obviously, what I meant to say is that, some place that the economic opportunity is limited, right? Maybe the air quality isn't there, maybe the health isn't there, right? So I'm very, very thankful that I feel very, very blessed that I'm in this amazing place and have the opportunity to excel. So I think we have a lot to be thankful for, and I think that this is an incredible country, an incredible place, and an incredible time to be alive with all the technology that's happening, with the precious metals, where they're going. I just think it's just an incredible time to be alive.